how is everyone? I hope you're all well. So following the why, and I think that's important in this Summer Wells case, because we all can say this is what happened or that is what happened and have an idea in our minds of what happened that day. But then if you're then asked to say, okay, if that's what you believe happened, why do you believe that happened? That's when people can then struggle. And I think if you're going to say that this happened, you have to first kind of, how can I say, look through that why and see whether it does indeed make sense. Like, we could turn around and say, right, for argument's sake, Don Wells was in debt for $90,000. He was in debt for $90,000 to a drug cartel. So what are the whys in that? So the whys in that may be, well, if he was involved in the drug cartel and he was involved to the sum of $90,000, then why would he be buying weed from Andy Bernard? Why would they be doing that? You can't get weed through the cartels? He couldn't get weed on tick, but he could only get a specific other drug on tick? That doesn't make sense to me. Doesn't make sense that someone who we're trying to say has accumulated a debt through something like a mafia source or this cartel source, they would then have to go to a petty crook who lives down the road to get a mediocre product. That just doesn't make sense. And then you've got to think to yourself, well, who's Andy Bernard's boss? If they're going to cartels and dealing with that sort of money, why wouldn't they go to the person who supplies Andy Bernard? All these little things just don't make sense. If we're going to go down the route of saying that someone had an accident on the home, she had an accident in the garden, and we're going to say, well, they hid it up, then the why is, well, why would they hide it? Why wouldn't they just call an ambulance? And then people will say, well, about the SA and stuff like that. But then you'd have to argue, if Candace, because let's not forget that Summer was with Candace and Grandis. So if, say, there was an issue in the background, and Candace wanted to get rid of Don. She'd already kicked him out once, let's not forget that. And he'd obviously bought the car, and people said, he's controlled and manipulated, bought the car or whatever, and they'd got back together. But that would have been a perfect opportunity to get Don out of the equation. And there's been no mention of anything subsequently. And let's not forget, these guys have had their moments, Candace has reported Don for other things like drugs, where he then got tested and she got tested as well because she's stupid. So some things just contain too many whys, and anything that I try and connect to the Wells directly, the why that connects to it it just doesn't sit right. It's like if we say something happened at the swimming hole, like someone went under, she drowned at the swimming hole or whatever. But then you would say, well, if that's the case, then why hasn't Hunter stated that someone wasn't with them? He's been apparently interviewed by the FBI 4 times, did Chris McDonough say? So he's been interviewed. So why wouldn't he have just turned around and said someone weren't with us that day? Or she went under the water, this is what happened, and Candace threatened me. She threatened me, said I couldn't say anything. And if he's said that already, then why hasn't she then been pulled in? So that clearly states that he hasn't. Do you see what I mean? Always look at what you're considering is the issue, or what you believed happened, and then look at the whys that connect to it. And if you can find something that you look into and you study, and all of the whys to it make sense, then you could just find your answer. So let me know down below, what is your theory, and when you look at the whys, how do they make sense? And I'll equally look at your theory and see whether I can find a why that could make it a problematic theory. and I'll catch you all in the next one.